but specifically reach out, because I think that personal touch of being one-on-one and being like, hey, I would really like to see you specifically there, can mean a lot to someone.
Mm-hmm. I think that can be, we've had attendance problems in the past. You see, like, the people who are really close will all show up, but then any kind of outliers don't show up because they don't have friends that are like getting them there. So I think reaching out to people is a really good thing to do. Courtney?
So I just like, a lot of times, this kind of goes along with what Amanda was saying, but a lot of times you might see a brother who's like struggling, whether it's with school or social stuff, or just like, you know, struggling to carry stuff back to their dorm room. So it can go a long way to just like offer assistance and whatever, you know, it seems like they need, whether somebody asks for help or not, just kind of offering your assistance.
Yeah, for sure. So you guys really kind of touched on the next thing I was going to have you do. So I'm going to give you 1 more minute to send a message to a brother, and I'd really like you to try to pick somebody that you don't talk to all the time. Probably not someone that you've never talked to, where like, I get that that could be a little weird, but somebody that you not like Miles and Chrissy do not message each other. Okay, but some of the ideas I wanted to give you to message someone is just to check in and ask how they're doing, invite them to like get lunch or do something over Zoom, thank them for something, some kind of like effort that they put in towards Kappa, like some actual work, like something concrete, if that makes sense, or a compliment, and just say like, hey, you're a ray of sunshine, like something sweet like that. But also if you think of something else. So I'm going to give another minute and do that right now. Okay, cool. We're going to move on. So the next pillar is service. The purpose that kind of goes along with service is to promote the existence and welfare of the college and university bands, to cultivate at large a wholesome respect for their activities and achievements. So this one might not sound exactly like service, but basically what it's saying is support your band program, and service is how we do that. I tried to focus on a facet of service that we don't normally talk about a lot, and I think that this is one that we can really do right now, that in like the COVID times, that's kind of unique. But it's talking about supporting through the atmosphere and attitude that we have. So some excerpts: the cultivation and maintenance of an agreeable and enthusiastic attitude is mandatory for all of our members. I thought that was a really interesting phrase that was on the site. Like, mandatory is an intense word, so just so you guys know, it's mandatory that you are agreeable, enthusiastic at all times. 5 things that it listed that we could add to the programs that we're a part of are morale, spirit, enthusiasm, atmosphere, and attitude. And a quote that they included was, "The things you do for yourself are gone when you are gone." but the things you do for others remain as your legacy. I thought that was really good. It just made me think, I think it's a really important thing to live by wherever you go. So I was going to do breakout rooms, but let's all do it together. Brainstorm 3 ways that you can improve the attitude and atmosphere within the band programs. So take a second to think, and then when you do, you can kind of unmute yourselves and jump in. Courtney?
I think that a good way to kind of keep a positive attitude and help to give people around you a positive attitude, like especially during marching band, is like when we're going back and like resetting for a new run, just to kind of like, you know, be excited about it and be like, yeah, we got this. All right, come on, let's do this. And
Yeah, for sure.
you know,
Especially for rookies, seeing
fine.
that's kind of the culture of our band, is that we're excited to march is really important.
Yeah.
About Miles and Chrissy, you guys have any thoughts?
Chrissy, would you? Miles? No, you go. No. Okay. I think that a way to make it just more positive is like by like complimenting the marching and just the playing of like the people around you, like after a run through, even if it like wasn't their best, just if you're giving criticism or whatever, just make sure to make it more positive.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think a lot of people's like love language is words of affirmation, and that's one of the hardest ones to do, I think. So I think that's really cool to like just say things to the people around you, just like, hey, you're doing a great job. It's really nice.
I think something that would be important also is, or a way you can improve the atmosphere is like if you see someone struggling, offer to, you know, help them after practice or offer to help them the next day before practice. Because I think some people just struggle because they're scared to ask somebody for help. And sometimes they're wanting someone else to reach out to them. So if you see someone struggling or you know someone is having a difficult time like mastering a certain drill, like a certain set, or mastering like a certain piece of the music, it may just be helpful to reach out and ask them like if they want someone to help them.
Yeah, for sure. I think like me personally, I'll always ask questions if I think of them, but it's important to remember that's not how everybody operates. So like reaching out and giving that extra opportunity for them to speak up can be super helpful to people. What about Corey? Have you come up with anything?
Most of mine have already pretty much been said, but really like for the most part, like having like a ton of enthusiasm about band, especially during and before some of like the more late season practices, when like, you know, it starts to get a little monotonous and people, you know, start to like,
Yeah, for sure,
get a little run down. You know, keeping that enthusiasm all the way through there.
Yeah, cool. So the ideas that I came up with were similar. I said hustling between sets, greeting peers, not just in class, but around campus and the community, especially for, I think, people that are like the music major folks that are in Ellis. That's something that you can do outside of Pride, providing supportive atmospheres for those outside of Kappa. So like we have this community and a way to kind of always be reminded that we should be striving for the highest. But for other band members that might not have this kind of network, you know, giving those chances like, hey, you want to go practice together? Hey, have you gotten this done yet? Just being supportive can mean a lot to other people. We're going to move on to leadership now. So the purpose that goes along with leadership is to stimulate campus leadership and promulgate an uncompromising respect through the medium of the college band for gracious conduct, good taste, and unswerving loyalty. So I think there's a lot there. Again, that theme of, all of campus and not just within Kappa. The 5 characteristics that our nationals lists as a good leader are attitude, interest in learning from others, risk-taking, opportunity-seeking, goal-setting, empowering others. I thought those were all like fairly unique. A lot of times you hear a lot of the same things as good leadership qualities. So I thought those were cool to take a look at. Interest in learning from others, I think, is always great. One of our mottos is that it is an honor to be selected to serve. So that goes with service, but I also think it's an important motto to keep in mind when talking about leadership. Our 4 values that are listed on our website are honor, integrity, respect, and loyalty. So those are things that you can always be thinking about. Keep those words embedded in you whenever you're working on stuff. So the last thing was a specific excerpt from the site. Embedded in striving for the highest is a simple truth. Brothers of Kappa Kappa Psi are enthusiastic for change and constant improvement. I thought that was cool because I think your officers right now were really trying to change up a lot of things, and having a chapter that's on board with the idea of constant improvement is really helpful to, new ideas and keeping enthusiastic for that. So that's kind of a lot to mull over there, but I feel like leadership is a complicated thing. So now I want us to all go around and tell the group what role they typically play in a group project and what kind of things help you to be successful when you're in a group. So let's start with Courtney, if you don't mind.
So in a group project, usually I don't take control or become the leader of it, but I contribute ideas that I think would be helpful, and I make sure to do my own work. And,
for sure.
Yeah.
Being a dependable person is really important for group projects, because we've all dealt with those projects where you have someone that just never does anything. Miles.
Chrissy ran to the bathroom. She'll be back.
Okay.
I typically just kind of do whatever I'm told to do in the projects. I don't like to be in charge of them. So, yeah. Whatever.
Something interesting about leadership is, we always think of the face, the one person kind of thing, but a lot of times leading is a matter of leading by example, and things don't really get done until people see it getting done. So when I talk about things, people are like, yeah, she's the president, of course she's going to say that. But when the rest of the chapter sees other members actively, making that stuff happen, I think that's a really important role that we need. Next, Amanda.
I like being the dependable person. One thing that I strongly dislike, especially working in group projects, is that there usually tends to be somebody who doesn't want to put in as much effort as some other people. And so to make others in the group know that they can depend on me is super important. And sometimes I don't mean to become the group leader, but it just kind of happens. Just because I'll be like, what if we do this? And then people are like, yeah, you do it. You're in charge. Yeah. And I'm like, that's not what I meant.
I think also group projects, it's complicated to tell people to do something because there's not an official leader.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did you have more? I kind of cut you off.
No, I mean, I'm in a class for communication majors, and I think it's mostly communication majors, and we had to take a certain test that gives you your 5 strengths. It's supposed to make you feel good about yourself. I don't know if you've taken that as well, Taylor, if you know what I'm talking about.
It's actually is it the high 5 test?
I don't know if it's called the high 5 test, but I remember it's supposed to give you 34 things, but the one we take is the 5, and it'll tell you your strengths and how those apply to you. So one of my strengths is achiever, so I always have to do something in a day to feel like I've done something. or like
Yeah.
I start the day at 0 and I need to finish at like a 100.
Right. I can definitely relate to that. If you take the Enneagram, it'll tell you what you're motivated by, and mine is also achiever, so I think that's cool. Corey.
I usually end up with kind of like the jobs that the other people didn't really want to do. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't really mind that. I think usually I end up like letting everyone else pick what they want and then taking whatever part of the project,
Right.
no one else really wanted. And like, that doesn't really bother
Yeah.
me
It's
at all. I
like
feel like
your strength is kind of being adaptable to any job.
yeah.
Cool. Austin.
So I like, if there's someone up there leading in charge, I'm totally okay with it. I'm more than happy to just sit back and let someone else. But if it's all kind of chaos, I'll step in a little like, hey guys, maybe we should think about doing this and try to get everyone working. And then if someone's really struggling, I'll go and try to get with them and figure like, hey, what's wrong? What seems to be the issue? And see if we can work it out together, what's going on.
Yeah. Cool. Nikki.
So for me, I guess it kind of just depends on like what the project's over. If like I have if the project's part of the project or like the project as a whole is something I feel comfortable with or like knowledgeable about, I feel a lot more comfortable to like maybe step more towards a leadership role or I try to be dependable always, but like if I'm not so knowledgeable about it, I kind of like step back and see what other people know first. And like if I can see that someone's more knowledgeable, kind of let them start to be in charge of things because they clearly know more about it and may have a better direction than I do. So it kind of just depends on what we're trying to accomplish as a group.
I think that's a great characteristic. I can relate to that. Like a lot of times if I get into a group, I start talking first and I tend to take charge. But if I notice that I don't really have that many ideas about what's happening, I'll definitely step back and let somebody else who's like more confident in it start. So we kind of already touched on this, but I would suggest on your own time taking like personality quizzes online. High Five test is a really good one. Myers-Briggs, Enneagram. If you're in zodiac signs, anything that talks about personality is cool just to take time to reflect. I'm not the biggest believer in these type of things because I think people are so complex. It can be really hard to categorize people where everything is going to be true. But I think it gives you the opportunity to like look at that thing and say, is that true about me? And give you a chance to like know yourself better. And look for things that are specifically work environment related. A lot of them will be social environment. So if you just look up like leadership styles quiz, there are ones that are specifically about that too, which is always good to know because it can be kind of different. So the last pillar is musicianship. There's two purposes that I found that could kind of go along with this one. The first is to honor outstanding band members through privilege of membership extended as a reward for technical achievement and appreciation for the best in music. Second is to foster a close relationship between college bands and promote a high average of attainment by the performance of good music and selection of worthwhile projects. And then lastly, in our creed, it says music is a universal language and truly the greatest of the arts. A lot of times we all talk about our love of music and that's something we bond over, but we don't talk about striving for the highest in music as much as I think we could. So I think that's something to build on. So similar to our first activity, I want to give you guys a minute to think about concrete ways that you could strive for the highest in musical ensembles, and feel free to think outside of pride or just even on your own completely. And I'll give you a couple minutes and then we're going to share those out loud again. Okay. Real quick before they do this, Chrissy is back, and I'm not going to let her get out of the last thing. Chrissy, what role do you typically take on in a group project or setting?
In a group project, I would say I typically like try and let someone lead someone else for the most part. If they don't, I'm pretty willing to take on a leadership role. If they do, I'm just do my work and
Cool.
yeah.
Thank you. Just curious about everybody too. All right. Who would like to share their ideas about music? Courtney.
I'm full of ideas tonight.
You always.
I like a few times I've gone into the Flip Folder app and the UDB app and marked in my step offs and stuff like before we actually learn the sets, just to know the general direction and the like part that will be played there, to get an idea of that, and also just like looking ahead to music that we haven't started on yet.
Yeah, for sure.
And offering help to people in the band who like maybe haven't been there because they've been sick or for whatever reason. If they need any clarification or any help with anything.
Yeah, that's great, especially right now, because that'll be me in a couple weeks. All right.
I got you.
Anyone else like to share? Chrissy, why don't you share again?
Sorry, I was ordering Chipotle, but I was very much listening, and I
It's
really.
okay.
I actually was. That sounded insincere. I think for me, I could like actually practice, and another thing to strive for the highest in my music ensembles is to make reads and make good reads.
That's
Really,
a good one too.
Thank
you, Chrissy. Mickey.
Part of it like was a workshop forever ago, like when you're in like maybe a seated ensemble or something, you know, not looking at your phone, like turning it off, having it like airplane mode. Now in Pride, like maybe making it so you can't get notifications. And another thing that like, even though it's not like a direct thing, it like ties back in with something in some type of thing, is helping out like weaker musicians. Because if you can develop your level, like if you help someone else, it helps you understand that better because you're able to teach it to someone else or help them figure out something. So if you can do that aspect as well, like it talks about somewhere in some Kappa document, helping weaker musicians, to me, if you like, you can teach something, you learn it again, and you learn it a different way because they may not understand, and you may have to change way of thinking about like the music to help someone else, which in turn gives you another way to think about music.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I believe that's in the Road to Wisdom in that section, but like even creating this presentation for you guys forced me to kind of think about all of these concepts in a new way. So I think that's definitely helpful. So some of the ones I came up with were memorizing music thoroughly, mentally reviewing drill outside rehearsal. Even though that's about drill, I think knowing my drill is the best way for me to play music well. Paying really close attention in music sectionals and listening to Dr. Snow's notes and making legitimate adjustments to your playing. I forgot to call for any more, if there are any more people to share any of the ones that popped. Okay, cool. So kind of to wrap up, I want to challenge you guys to do a few things in the coming weeks. Check in on another brother tomorrow or the day after that. And if you can, make it a regular habit. Serve others with your positive attitude on campus, just smiling at people or like doing one of these as you pass by people on the sidewalk can mean a lot. Take a leadership style quiz this week and memorize your band music. These are just little icons that I came up with that I think are cute. Any questions or last minute thoughts? Nikki?
This goes back to it's more of a thought. When you talk about the leadership thing, the reason I like the Enneagram test that I took is that, like Taylor said, people aren't just one thing. And I like the Enneagram because there's 9 different things you can be placed in, but the one I took gave you percentages in each of them. So, like mine was like I had 3 of them that were in the 90s. So like I categorized myself not necessarily
Right.
at the most in, but by the 3 I had like 90% in.
Yeah, for sure. I do.
Also, if you take the Enneagram, there's a band on the topic of music that has a song for each one of them. All 9 different types, and they're really good. And so
I forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me. I've been meaning to look that up. Okay, anything else?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Could you like send this PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah, I can send it out. And I've been recording too. Well, I started recording late. It's really hard to remember. But yeah, I'll definitely send this out for everybody.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you guys, everybody, for coming. The next one of these will be 2 weeks from tonight. Chris Iberger, who's a brother from several years ago, is coming to lead a workshop on living the ritual after graduation, which is really like unique and interesting topic. So I would urge all of you guys to be there for that. Should be really good. He's a very knowledgeable guy. Nikki.
it also can't be recorded, so there's no, oh, I missed it. So if you can make show up.
For sure. All right. That is the end of the presentation, so feel free to dip out. Chrissy, sorry for calling you out. I was making sure that everyone participated.
I love you, Taylor.
Love
So much.
you.
I
noticed Amanda left.
yeah.
Our alarms went off.
Yeah, I messaged her and I asked if she would want the PowerPoint presentation as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I took this like series of personality tests